The old farmhouse stood at the edge of town like a stubborn monument to history. Built nearly 150 years ago, its weathered bricks and creaking floors carried the stories of 5 generations. To most, it was just a house. To Samuel Whitaker, my grandfather, it was the very heartbeat of his family's legacy. He often said, "Every nail in these walls has blood, sweat, and memory in it." But the Homeowners Association didn't see history. They saw profit. For years, they'd been trying to push Grandpa out. They sent letters, notices, fines for violations that were laughable. His fence being too rustic, his oak tree being too large, his porch light being not uniform. When those didn't work, they tried buying him out. But Samuel wasn't a man who could be bought. On a stormy night in November, with wind rattling the shutters, came a pounding at the door. Not a polite knock, but a hammering that shook the old frame. Grandpa, sitting in his worn recliner, tightened his grip on his cane. When he opened the door, 3 men stood on the porch. They wore dark uniforms, but the details were off. Badges that glinted wrong, belts too loose, boots unpolished. One of them, tall and thin, spoke with a false authority. "Mr. Whitaker, you are hereby ordered to vacate this property. Failure to comply will result in immediate removal." Grandpa squinted at their badges. Cheap metal, the kind you could buy in a costume store. His military-trained instincts whispered one truth: these were no officers of the law. "Whose authority?" Grandpa's voice was gravel but steady. The man smirked. "Higher than yours, old man. Pack your things. You're done here." Grandpa leaned on his cane, staring them down. For a moment, silence stretched. Thunder outside, tension inside. Then he simply said, "Get off my porch before I show you what done really means." The imposters hesitated, exchanged uneasy glances, then retreated into the night. But Grandpa knew this wasn't over. This was only the opening move. And for the first time in years, Samuel Whitaker felt the old fire of a soldier waking inside him. The next morning, Grandpa called me, his grandson Ethan. I was still in law school, just 24, but he said I had the sharpest mind in the family. He told me everything, his voice carrying both anger and steel resolve. "They weren't cops, Ethan. They were hired muscle. HOA wants me gone." I drove out to the farmhouse, the road still slick from last night's storm. When I arrived, Grandpa was already outside, inspecting the property like a general surveying a battlefield. "They'll be back," he muttered. "And when they do, we'll be ready." I wanted to call the police immediately, but Grandpa shook his head. "Without proof, it's my word against theirs, and you know who the system favors. The board, not an old man in a farmhouse." He was right. The HOA had deep pockets and lawyers on call. But what they underestimated was Grandpa's mind and his past. He'd been a military scout in his youth, trained to spot traps, to lay bait, to track enemies in the dark. And now, with me handling the legal side and him handling the tactical, we had a plan. We installed hidden cameras in the porch beams, motion-activated lights by the barn, even sound sensors near the fence. Grandpa, with surprising agility for his age, set up tripwires that would trigger recording devices. That night, as we tested the equipment, Grandpa leaned against the railing and whispered, "They think I'm prey, but the oldest wolves bite hardest." If someone came to your family's home pretending to be the police, would you stand and fight like Grandpa, or play it safe and leave? 2 nights later, headlights cut across the fields. A black SUV rolled up and outstepped the same fake cops. This time they were bolder, marching straight to the door. I whispered, "Grandpa, should we call the police now?" He shook his head, eyes locked on the porch. "Not yet. Let them dig their own graves." The men pounded on the door again. "Mr. Whitaker, final warning. Leave or face consequences." Grandpa opened the door, cane in one hand, camera hidden in the other. "You boys got a warrant?" he asked coolly. They sneered. "We don't need one." And that's when Grandpa smiled, the kind of smile that meant the trap had sprung. The moment the men stepped across the threshold, alarms blared. Lights flashed, cameras whirred, and recordings of sirens played from hidden speakers. The imposters froze, panic flooding their faces. "You're trespassing," Grandpa thundered, his voice carrying the weight of command. "And now, you're caught." Before they could run, Real police cruisers tore up the driveway, because while the fake cops thought they were intimidating an old man, Ethan had been on the phone with the sheriff the entire time. The imposters tried to flee, but every move was recorded, every threat captured. Within minutes, the sheriff's deputies had them face down in the mud, their fake badges clattering to the ground. The SUV was impounded, and inside were files, documents, even cash payments linking them straight to the HOA president. The fallout was swift. The HOA board, once smug in their power, was exposed for orchestrating illegal intimidation. The president resigned in disgrace, lawsuits rained down, and neighbors who once feared speaking out finally found their voices. And Grandpa? He sat on his porch at sunrise, sipping coffee, watching the world awaken. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. He looked at me and said with a half smile, "They came to hunt me, Ethan. But I've been hunting my whole life. They forgot who I am." The farmhouse still stands today, stronger than ever. And whenever people pass by, they don't just see an old house. They see a fortress of history, a monument to resilience, and a reminder that even the mightiest bullies can fall.